Today I have Steve from Steve's point of view, and that's not my point of view. It's Steve, who has a channel which he beams to Japan from the United States and talks about all kinds of things, including cars. But he is fluent in Japanese, and I would like to find out from Steve, and you can begin then by introducing yourself, like what is it that you do right now? How did you learn Japanese? And how did you manage to turn your knowledge of Japanese into an activity that is a viable business?
はじめまして、スティーブさん。よろしくお願いいたします。
はじめまして、よろしくお願いします。
Thanks for having me on your channel. It's an honor. I appreciate you having me. My name is Steve. I have a channel called Steve's Point of View, or Steve's POV for short. I am fluent in Japanese, but I didn't start off my life that way. I started studying Japanese. I really wasn't interested in Japan until I got to college in 1988 at the University of Wisconsin. I was a business major there studying business, and at the time, Japan's economy was booming. There were books being written about Japan becoming the #1 economy in the world. It was fascinating for me.
Sure.
And as a business major, my goal was to make money and to try to be successful in business. And I thought by combining Japanese language with my business degree, it would be a way for me to achieve success working together with Japan. And that was my stepping stone. I got to Japan in the summer back in 1991, spent 3 months on a chicken farm in rural Japan, immersing myself into the culture, avoided speaking English for 3 months, and came back to America with a strong confidence, I guess, that I can learn this language, I can master the language, the culture as well, I can get to learn it very well, and be successful that way. And I won a contest in 1993 called the Japanese Speech Language Contest. It's a national contest held in Chicago. And that got me back to Japan and got me my first job opportunity there in Japan in 1993.
Can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes, sir.
Because you said something that's so important.
Yes.
You came back confident that you could learn the language.
Yes.
I think that's an absolute key. That sense that I can do this thing. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but I just thought I thought that was such an important
It's
thing.
a fantastic point,
said.
Steve. I wasn't confident until I went to Japan. I was not confident. I was one of the kids in the class who didn't have any experience with cultural exchanges or homestays or anything like that. A lot of kids in the class did. I didn't. I felt that I wasn't very good until I got to Japan and spent that 3 months. And really, that was the confidence. I came back with that confidence that I could learn this language. I could speak it. I could pronounce it. I could do well with it. And then, you know, there's another point with language. You may understand that they say at some point when you're learning a language, you start to dream in the language. You start to speak the language in your dreams. And that after that point is when I started actually having dreams in Japanese. And somebody told me at that point, that's when you know I guess mastered, or to some degree, you know you've got the language in you. And that day came, and from there I got back to Japan, started working. Worked for a Japanese company for about 1.5 years or so before I ventured off on my own and started doing translating and importing and exporting and all kinds of stuff in Japan as a foreigner back in the early 90s. Long way through there, back to the United States and California to now to Texas. But I started YouTube about 7 years ago. The passion in doing so was to show people there is a Japanese-speaking non-Japanese person here in North America who understands business and would love to work together and venture with people. And that was the purpose of starting Steve's POV. And thankfully, here about 7 years later, almost 400,000 subscribers strong, the channel is something that's fun to do, along with my real estate business as well here in Texas.
So you have a real estate business in Texas,
Yes.
And then you have this YouTube channel. And I know you're very interested in cars, but do you just talk about cars, or does your point of view include, Steve, ranting on, like I do, on a variety of different subjects in Japanese that your Japanese audience finds interesting? Or is it mostly cars?
Well, lately it's been mostly cars, but the channel started with something from my POV, the point of view that I had in living and working in Japan, living and experiencing Japanese culture and being an American, and then coming back to to America and with a fresh Japanese work mindset, a way of doing things, and coming back to America and experiencing a bit of culture shock, even as an American back from Japan. And I started making videos where I played a Japanese salaryman and a Japanese salesman in the same kind of short parody type setting. And it shows kind of those big differences between Japan and America.
Sorry, did you say a Japanese salaryman and a Japanese salesman or an American salesman?
American salesman versus Japanese salesman.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might have misstated that.
Yeah.
And they're very different. Japanese, the neckties on. You're very, you're suited up. You're very stiff. You're very rigid. You're very manual in many ways. There's a way to do things, and there's only one way to do things, and you don't. And Americans were a little more laid back. My feet are up on the desk. It's t-shirts on Fridays. We're out of the office at 2:30. We got a baseball game for the kids. These are things in Japan you didn't have. And I found those differences very interesting. And I put some videos out about them that did very well.
One of the big differences in my experience is in Japan, if you are dealing with someone in business and you say, "Can you do this?" And they say, "Do the show, very difficult." That means he's going to do it. In North America, if you say, "Can you do this?" "Oh yeah, no problem." Maybe, and maybe not.
Maybe not. And everything's the best here. We talk about us a lot.
Oh, the best.
And it's mine. It's very personalized. You could be working for a company here, but you talk about my warehouse, my products, my guy in the warehouse, my guy in the back. It's very personalized. Here in Japan, it's about the group. It's about the company. It's about the bigger entity.
Plus, in Japan, they don't necessarily, because you say my product is the best, that they don't necessarily believe that. Just because you say yours is the best, you may not be convincing anyone. And maybe you want to try to persuade them that you're going to try hard to, look after your customer rather than just saying mine is the best.
There's a bit more of a humble approach, I think, to what you have there.
Definitely.
It's not that hard, maybe sales push, or maybe as hard of a, this is the best, you got to try the other. It's more of a humble approach, and that's all built into the culture too. So when you learn Japanese language, right, Steve, it's not just learning nani nani desu, nani nani masu, the basic Japanese words, but it's learning that culture and then the hierarchical of Japanese society and how you humble yourself or elevate others and how you talk to somebody older than yourself or a teacher or a shacho, a president in a company versus the guy who works below you in the company. It's very different. It's a different mindset that you need to understand.
But one thing I would say about that is that, first of all, because Japan has had a different history and is from a very different culture, doesn't mean that a North American can't learn that.
Nope.
Just as a Japanese person can learn the North American way. So I definitely feel that. I mean, I can go over there and feel I'm integrated in with them. I mean, they look at me, I look a little different, but culturally, in terms of what we're saying to each other, we're all operating kind of in the same cultural environment. That was one point. And I think another important point is you can't read a book which tells you how you should behave and when you use the polite form and then expect to apply that. You actually have to live it until you start to feel it naturally.
Yep. Exactly true. And that's part of going there. And, there's a lot of foreigners who are in Japan now, and over the years more and more have increased. And you see a lot of foreigners stay together with other foreigners. There are people who are with Japanese, of course, but if you really want to learn, you've got to go out with Japanese in different social situations, whether it's eating, whether it's drinking, whether it's studying together, or whatever it may be, working together, and to understand those non-language language and the gestures and some of the differences that are there that unless you experience it, like you said, you can't just learn it in a book necessarily.
No. And I think it's important to then want to be part of that group. And the same applies in reverse. If a Japanese person comes to North America, you have to want, or anybody learning any language, you have to want to be part of that group. And it's if you're very self-conscious of yourself, here I am, I'm an American or a Canadian, I'm in amongst all these Japanese, and somehow the fact that I'm this American speaking Japanese is somehow important. All of that is negative. You're just there, one of them, part of the group. That's been my experience. That leads to acquiring the language and feeling part of the group.
If you go there and you act like, hey, well, I'm an American, I do things differently and all this, you're gonna fail. I in my opinion, in really understanding and appreciating and learning Japanese culture and the beauty of it. I think you need to go over there as if somebody comes here. It's not, you have your culture, you have your identity, that's great, but you know what, you're in their country, you're a guest in that country. There's certain rules, there's certain formal things that are done, and believe me, if you don't follow those, you'll see, maybe some people say, well, he's American, or he's a foreigner, so, we'll give him a pass on it. But if you're there and really trying to assimilate and you're doing stupid stuff, you're going to get called out on it.
But I think though it's important not to over sort of dramatize this. Like sometimes you'll get Americans going over there, they're bowing 90 degrees and all this other stuff. You know,
Right.
you have to feel it. You have to have, you know, sensitive tentacles, antenna that you start to feel it naturally.
Right.
And so it's comfortable doing it. You don't want to be doing something that's uncomfortable. I mean, of course, you take your shoes off before you walk in a house. But other than that, I don't think people need to be so uptight about it. If they just naturally connect with people, person to person, they'll gradually start to see how other people behave and start behaving the same way. Just as we acquire language through imitation, we acquire that cultural communication skill
Yep.
through just letting it come, you know?
I agree with you.
Yeah. Tell me.
No,
ahead.
I
Sorry,
agree
was
with you
gonna ask another
completely.
question.
Please go ahead with your question, though, but I agree with your point.
No, I was going to say, what is the appeal to your viewer base? 400,000 subscribers, that's a lot. What is it you think that they find appealing in your videos?
I think they find appealing a couple of things. One, the fact that I'm located in the United States. I'm not Japanese, but I'm doing my shows in Japanese. That I've raised a son here in the United States who was born in California, now in Texas, who's 21 years old, who speaks Japanese fluently. He's comfortable doing it. He's not ashamed or embarrassed in any way. I think there's something unique and completely different about that. I also try to point out in my videos, even if they're about cars, the cultural differences, whether it be how a box is packed that came from Japan and how it's wrapped and presented versus something that showed up from just down the street that looks like it just went through, you know, around the world and under the ocean and everywhere else and back. And you know, these things I think people maybe find that point of view interesting, and the father-son relationship
definitely.
as well is certainly part of it as well.
Okay. Yeah, no, the Japanese attention to detail. If they're going to do something, they're going to do it 110%.
Correct.
Whereas here in North America, 65% is good enough.
Maybe.
Sometimes.
Maybe.
You know, we shouldn't be all right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to have a chat on your channel in Japanese,
Yes.
and I'm certainly going to leave a link to your channel in my description box so we can continue this conversation in Japanese and see where that takes us. But thank you very much. And I hope your example will be an inspiration to people who follow my channel who are interested in learning Japanese or any other language for that matter.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Bye for now.